Hey everyone, and welcome to Resi Equip. In everything that we do here at Resi, we want to equip you with the knowledge that you need in order to most effectively reach, engage, and grow your audience. And while we're honored to be able to provide reliable live streaming solutions in order to help you accomplish that, we certainly know that we don't have all the answers. And that's why in each of these Equip sessions, we bring in experts that we trust and we want to hear from to be able to share some of their knowledge, their wisdom, their experience that we want to learn from and we want to share with others. Our goal for each of these classes is to equip you with the knowledge that you need to learn live streaming and production on a deeper level in order to most effectively reach, engage, and grow your audience. So enjoy today's event, and if you aren't already, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to us on YouTube. That's a great place for you to be able to engage with content like this, as well as more snippets from other events and other experts in the field of live production. Today we are thrilled to be joined by some guests in studio for the very first time. We've got some awesome guys from Flatirons Church up in Lafayette, Colorado, and they're gonna talk about how they pulled off their Easter service this year using some really innovative, cool, creative technology, including XR, and how they pull off awesome experiences for their audiences week after week. So let's get right into it. Welcome to Resi Equip. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We're excited to have you join us.
So excited to be here with you.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So today we're talking Easter, but we're not just talking Easter. We're talking production. We're talking creativity. We're talking, anything that you guys want to talk about. So before we do that, though, I'd love to be able to just get a little bit of an introduction from each of you and what you do at Flatirons. So Tony, we'll start with you.
Cool. My name's Tony. I am the systems engineer for Flatirons Community Church, and I plug things in. That's my main job.
My name is Morgan. I'm the campus technical director, so I work with this team here and some other people on our team to take the vision of what we're doing for the weekend and communicate it out to the campuses and make sure that it gets executed correctly.
Nice. Guys, I'm Bryce. Honored to be here with you today. I'm the production director at Flatirons, and I get the privilege of overseeing this team, as well as working alongside our teaching and music and creative teams to create cohesive programming.
Sweet. My name is Brando. I'm our broadcast production lead at Flatirons, and I'm just responsible to make sure online church is happening. And then I sometimes help with some of the creative elements that happen on Sundays.
Nice. Awesome. Well, great. And like I said, today we're talking Easter. Obviously, Easter is a big deal for every church, one of the biggest attended Sundays of the year, and I know probably no exception for you guys. And your guys' service was awesome. I know you guys did a lot of new things, a lot of different things that you hadn't tried before, so we're going to get into all that. But if somebody wants to check out Flatirons Easter service, how can they do that?
It's available on YouTube. It's also available on our website.
Cool.
Brando, any other platforms?
Yeah, that's it in our app. So
Okay.
if you want to, those are the three.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And I know, so we were really thrilled to be able to have somebody follow you around. It was like the biggest ask ever when I called up Tony and I was like, hey, this biggest stress weekend, what if I had somebody follow you around with a camera? And he was like, sure, let's do it. So it was amazing. We really appreciated you doing that, or allowing us to do that, because we just wanted to bring it back, wanted to celebrate it, wanted to talk church tech and production and celebrate it with our community, talk about some of the common stresses and some of the common things that we all go through during Easter week and in any big week in general. So we put together a little mini documentary, and we'll go ahead and play it.
Bro, our team is ready. Going into an Easter service, are you kidding me? That's it.
Easter is a really exciting time around Flatirons.
Just pure insanity.
Just pure energy. Everybody's working together. The whole team is aligned on a clear vision.
Our teams have to collaborate and work together more than any other time of the year. As you all know, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of timelines that are really short and condensed, and just really high expectation because it's an opportunity for people to come visit a church at a time where they may not otherwise. So we want to really make sure that we're prepared well and we're creating a space that people might come and experience something that they didn't expect.
The team atmosphere is definitely gung-ho. Everybody's ready to rock and roll. Everybody's rolling on all cylinders. We're ready to make it happen and do what we have to get it done.
It was just 30 days of nonstop collaboration with creative team, flying down to New Mexico, getting a shoot done, coming back, working with outside consultants, in particular to figure out how to use Unreal Engine and teaching, and then figuring out how to use the disguise service to execute the service in just a non-intrusive way where everybody can bump into Jesus.
For Easter, we added Disguise VX4 video server, purchased a whole bunch of red 6K Komodo cameras. We bought Scarhoy RCPs to control the cameras for shading. We purchased a render node from Disguise as well so that we can do Unreal and Notch and bring that into the services and create our own environments and worlds. Rented a whole bunch of LED wall panels, blow-through panels, lighting fixtures, just to help create the environment and a canvas for the creative team to produce content.
When we purchased this new technology in LED processing, it wasn't necessarily installed or integrated until the week before Easter. So there was a massive transition that had to happen in technology in order to start building the creative assets to make the service happen. And that points to like there's a condensed timeline of things that had to happen, but it was anytime you go through a major technology transition, there's just a lot of factors at play there. And the week of before Easter is when we made that transition.
First service was nuts to watch back. It was just sick to get to see everybody come in and enjoy it. It was nerve-wracking because like things were coming together that Saturday morning as we were testing all the elements. You know how it is, troubleshooting Dante, bro. 2 hours before the service starts. And then the next service hits, everything starts getting more smooth. The next service hits, the timeline is figured out. It's just this incredible moment where we finally get to just experience what's happening, and it was just overjoyed.
For me, Easter at Flatirons here was the most emotional roller coaster I've experienced working at a church so far. Just seeing the struggles and then being like, oh man, these things aren't working, and then all of a sudden we fix it and get it rolling well and nice and smooth, and just feeling the joy of that. And then just seeing the amount of people come through the doors was just amazing.
Production works hard. We work so hard, and nobody in the church doesn't believe that. We just work really hard, and I'm just so proud of our team because no matter what obstacles come, we are risk takers every single step of the way. Like, we are making hard decisions quickly and efficiently with everybody's best interest in mind, and we are taking risks to get people through the doors.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was really cool to be able to see that look into your guys' services, and I know we'll talk about a little bit more behind the scenes, some of the craziness and everything that was involved. So I did just want to mention too, we're gonna go through just some discussion and questions, but we also have a ton of Q&A for those that are watching live, or if you're watching after the fact, you'll find it in the description in the YouTube link below. But as we're going along today, continue to drop those questions in the chat while we're watching live, and we'll definitely talk those through with the team here afterward. So the first question that I had for you, and this is for Bryce. Bryce, tell me a little bit about how planning for Easter is different than the typical Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for letting me talk about that. In addition to that, I just want to set a few things to set the tone. First of all, I'm very excited for this Q&A, just because I know how valuable everybody's time is, and it means the world that you guys are willing to tune in today and spend this time with us. So it's really a privilege to share a little bit about what's on our heart, and so we hope that's meaningful for you, but also we just love to connect, and we realize that we're doing this together, kingdom-minded with all the other leaders at other churches around the area, so and nationwide and in the world. So I just want to say thanks for your time, first of all, and we would really love to connect either in the Q&A or afterwards. So yeah, I just want it to be valuable for your time. The other thing I really want to do is acknowledge the fact that Easter was a massive team effort and an undertaking, and I'm just so honored to have the team that we do and all the people that contributed to this process. So right off the bat, I wanted to acknowledge the other people that aren't with us right now, that are part of our team and are with us every step of the way. That's Bobby Dunlap. He's our video director. That's Michael Hopkins. He's our audio engineer at our Lafayette campus. Brian Vogt, he's on our broadcast team and makes the online mix sound absolutely unbelievably great. We have Christy Smith, She's the most talented lighting designer in the whole world. And we also have Paxton Sorensen. He's our intern, and he's really just one of our own, and we love him lots. So thanks to our whole team. I just want to say that's our staff team. And then we're also really privileged to have amazing volunteers and contractors that really support the whole organization and what we're able to do. So wanted to thanks for letting me state that.
Yeah.
Because they all mean the world to me. And that team is what helps make Easter so special. I do want to acknowledge the fact that Easter, while we do put a lot of effort into Easter and Christmas for certain reasons, we really try to put our best foot forward every weekend, and we don't want necessarily for Easter to just be like this one time all like, hey, here's one experience that you can go to, but that doesn't really line up with the rest of our value the rest of the year. So we do keep that in mind, and at the same time acknowledge that we have a special, unique opportunity at Easter and Christmas to connect with people and have people who normally may not step foot in a church. Flatirons has a unique identity in that we're really called to reach people who may have specifically been had an experience in a church that burnt them out, or that kind of gave them a different interpretation of Jesus than what might be presented in the Bible. And so we really look at it as our first and foremost goal to go, how do we create an experience that shows and reflects the character of Christ in all of the real ways? And the amazing thing about that is that Christ is the head of the church, and he's the creator of everything, and we acknowledge that everything we do is Christ focused and Christ first, and he is the authority in our lives, and he's shown us a better way to live. But then also there's grace. So there's truth and grace. And so we want to blend those both in knowing that wherever people come from, wherever they've been, that they're met with love and grace, and judgment is reserved for, that's just way above our pay grade. That's what we like to say. So that's way above our pay grade. So the reason I say that is because specifically at Easter, we have an opportunity to portray that to a lot more people than we normally do. And so that just carries a huge weight of responsibility. And so therefore a lot of people weigh into that process and the development so that we can create the best experience possible.
That's cool. That's a good way to put it, for sure.
Great.
So let's talk through kind of some of the production elements. Like how is this year different, and how was Easter different? Tony?
Yeah, this year was different because we wanted to find new technology and use it in a creative way in a church service that was unobtrusive for people, so that it would just create this awesome, exciting environment for people to come into and just bump into Christ. That was our goal.
Nice. So we saw a lot of cool different kind of teasers of things on that video between LED walls and Unreal Engine, and we're going to talk through some of that. We're going to nerd out and get into some of the nitty-gritty details in a bit. But what were some of the things high level going in and planning for this thing? Obviously, you guys have been planning for years, right? Planning for this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All churches plan for years.
Exactly.
Three Easters out.
Yep. Flatirons is no different. So what went well? I guess just first of all, what went well with Easter this year?
Yeah, I can start us off with that. And what I would say the primary thing that went well is like our teaching pastor, Jim Bergen. He was able to have a very clear way of expressing his teaching to everyone that came in with all the new technology that we brought in. Like, that was the main focus of everything that we did, because the teaching then led to baptisms during Easter. And so, we were able to really help him express himself. I would say that's the biggest win. Yeah. And that was like the most high level thing, because that's really what we've been planning for a while. He was able to bring his script in, figure out, kind of the elements that he wanted, and then we went through that. Yeah.
Any other wins? I got one I'd love to share.
Yeah.
I think for Easter in particular, we chose to take some risks. It was what I'd consider a higher risk Easter, because we tried to embrace some new technologies that we hadn't used before, and did it within a fairly short time frame. So the risk to be able to know that we're going to have to deliver an exceptional service experience within the time frame was a risk. But I'd say the win in that is what it really caused our team to do is to unclench our fists and go, hey, we're gonna give this process over to know that, like, God is going to deliver what he needs to say and how to reach people effectively, regardless of what we do. So we're going to try our best in this situation. We're going to put our best foot forward and learn a lot in the process. I think we learned a ton. So that was a huge win, just the learnings from that. But also going like, hey, whether, I think it would be really easy to say, hey, we're leading up to this big service. Let's minimize our risk so that we can ensure a quality outcome. Mm-hmm. And instead we said, hey, the outcome that's set by God. Like, that's not whatever we do, we're not going to create that. But we're going to put our best foot forward, and we're going to take a risk. And that was a huge win. Yeah, let's go.
That's good.
I definitely think along with that, Bryce, is that just how everybody on our team came in knowing that this was a risky thing for us to do, and we all came together and just put 120% into it and came and created this awesome experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I would say, it's kind of a challenge, but the end result ended up being a really big win. But we were talking earlier, the thing that was like really tough about taking on such new technology with a ton of challenges and it just required a lot, was we spent so much time at Lafayette, which is our main campus, to create the content, create the assets, get stuff ready for the weekend, and the fallout of having to also create that stuff for 4 other locations. It's something we really value, that is being able to create excellent environments at all of our campuses. It's one of the church's values, is creating excellent environments so people can bump into Jesus. But with the short time frame and the magnitude of what we had to do, it just proved to be challenging to get that stuff out. I think we were left like scratching our heads at the end of it, like, Sundays, we have Saturday service. Saturday is like a day away, and we were still trying to get stuff together for campuses. But the flip side, like the win of that, is like it sparked a lot of conversation amongst the 4 of us, as well as with the worship and creative team, about how do we get ahead of some of that stuff? How do we it's Flatirons, like we're always going to have a tight timeline. It'd be great to have 3 years to plan an Easter, but it's not going to happen. But we're really having some awesome conversations around how can we put some processes and some stuff and some things in place to be able to work more effectively whenever we have like Christmases and Easters, or even just weekend services that require a little bit more work. And so that it was kind of like a big win that came out of a more frustrating part.
Yeah.
So
At the end of the day, we want to acknowledge our audience and say, working with technology is really fun. So that's a win in and of itself, right? We got to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
It's good. And we talked about taking risks. We talked about some of the challenges. That leads into the kind of the next question. What were some of the biggest stressors for you guys this year leading into Easter?
All right, for me, it was definitely the fact that I broke my thumb right after we decided to pull the trigger on all this new technology, and all of a sudden I'm going, I can't put a Cat 5 connector onto a cable. I can't build a BNC cable. How are we going to get this done? So just it was amazing how we just came together and did that. And my wife came alongside me and just helped me put all these connectors on.
That's amazing. Wives are the best.
What were you doing?
Yeah, Morgan came in.
Yeah. How'd you break your thumb?
Oh, I tried snowboarding. It's definitely a rookie move on my part.
Welcome to Colorado.
Welcome to Colorado.
Yeah.
I would say challenges was, number one, what I was just saying, but the other thing is being that the technology was so new, there wasn't a lot of resources for us to be able to learn how to use Disguise and learn how to use Unreal Engine. There's resources out there, but they take a long time to develop how to do this. And so that was a big challenge, as well as we were doing a house site project because our house lights died at the main campus, putting in a new camera package on top of Easter. And so there's a lot of things that were happening, so a lot of moving parts, which required a lot of bandwidth from the 4 of us, which kind of in return means a lot less bandwidth for other things like relationships with coworkers and contractors and volunteers, other campuses, so on and so forth. So I think we did pretty good.
I think so too. Also, just want to acknowledge, like for those of you that are leading a team, challenge for us in these situations is trying to figure out that balance between like empowerment and quality control. So that was a good challenge for me in particular, because I have a team of really talented people. Brando in particular was really responsible for a lot of the content creation, and in the end, like being able to deliver that content through the use of other people, our amazing contractors, and working alongside our worship team and creative team to curate all that content. So how do we like empower Brando? How do we make sure that everything falls in a cohesive package? And how do we empower our campus guys and our campus team to like really create the best experiences possible as well, knowing that like, hey, we have this limitation of a lot of content has to come down the pipeline from Lafayette in this model. So there's a lot of like kind of tensions to navigate there in that like just striking the balance between empowerment and quality control while we have a lot of input from all of our teams. There's just a lot of eyes on all the Easter process. So it can be complex.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I'd love to dive in a little bit about kind of tell me the story. We've heard some a bit about the different technologies that you guys used, but tell me a little bit of the story of diving, going back into the planning process of. We've heard about XR, so I definitely want to know what that is and how that was implemented. Take me a little bit back into the planning process of how Easter discussion started and what the production plan was for you guys.
Well, Easter planning came about at the end of January for us with all this new technology. And we just decided that we were going to go down this road of how do we use the new technology to create this world, these environments in Unreal, and implement them in a service that's effective and meaningful. So that's what we wanted to do. That was like the end goal. And that led us down like the disguise path, that led us down the red camera path, that led us down the Scarhoy path, and all these technologies. And then we reached out to all the different vendors that we could find. Who do you know in this world that does these things? And it was pretty hard to find. And then we eventually came across a company called Events United, and they're the ones that came alongside us and partnered with us to really bring everything together. And Brando could definitely speak more into that relationship.
Yeah. And then so through that process, that's where we started kind of talking more about, hey, Jim, we need you to provide your script a little bit sooner so that we can start kind of creating these elements, coming up with concepts. The biggest focus of the service was, if you guys watch the service, you'll see, but it's like this moment where Jim says, like, you got to take the next step of your faith, and the bridge is going to be Christ. It's the cross, right? Yeah. Without the cross, you don't have this bridge. And so the bridge was really what we were focusing on. And we were like, how are we going to make this thing happen? And then we were like, oh, wait, we can just create a whole world around Jim. Hey, Jim, where do you want to be there for that? So that would be like where we were coming from. And then also starting to figure out like how to communicate with Unreal artists, like how to communicate with disguise operators, because that's a brand new tool as well for us. Sure. And what's interesting through that is we just learned that you can just manipulate so many parameters for your teaching, for your service, for anything that you're doing. That was like the learning process of it. So yeah.
I'd love to kind of take a step back too and actually say, so what is, maybe just for those that don't know, what is XR? What is Unreal Engine? How do these kind of tools play together?
Can I explain one thing of that?
Yeah, please.
So just from the very beginning, I want to shout out Bobby, because Bobby has been has had his heart attuned to ways that we can do like effective teaching moving forward and grow in this technology. So he's done a ton of research and spent a bunch of time thinking about this and really planted the seed come January, really planted a seed so that we kind of figure out, okay, what are steps we can take in that direction? And that allowed us to work with Tony and Morgan and Brando to help figure out like how to engineer that and what kind of workflow and what kind of creative process is needed for that to work together. So I just want to say that's kind of how that came into play and how that became a forefront idea for Easter, was based on a seed that's planted, and then looking forward to what we're trying to figure out next is how do we continue to use that technology in an effective and sustainable way. So that's going to be really important too. Now, what that technology is, maybe you can explain that better right now.
Yeah, it actually takes a while to comprehend, but I'll try to I've been trying to figure out how to explain it simply. So basically we have two different units. One of them helps make sure that the image looks as good as possible. And that particular unit can also communicate with your cameras, with your LED wall, with any of your motors that are going up and down. That's basically the brain. Then you have another supercomputer that can render out all the information. So that's where your Unreal Engine lives. Now, what's interesting about both of these tools is that they can communicate with each other. So now you can live ingest the world that you're creating into your giant LED wall. So now it's more than just a graphic on a screen, which is how we're trying to figure out how can we bring people into the service with us, how can we bring them into the teaching with us. And that's where, so to talk about XR a little bit, it's a post-production tool, and these elements are used for that post-production tool. We're trying to figure out how we can use it in a live space, which is actually kind of it's a tool that's very specific for one thing. It's very specific for post-production workflows. It's very specific for, the LED looks funky, the moire is weird. And how can we bring that into a live setting? Because what's cool is changing the parameters live as the teaching is happening. And
what's an example of a live parameter you could adjust?
Yeah, so a clear example of that is, let's say you're in a world let's say you're in this office right here, and the talk is whatever about something in the office, and you decide, okay, I want the sign to change in the middle of the sermon when he says this exact thing. Now this sign changes to whatever. Let's say you're out in the mountains. Okay, when he says this, I want it to go from daytime to nighttime, and I want a thunderstorm to happen. So it's those are the live parameters that you can change as the flow is happening. That's what makes these tools super interesting. And then the red cameras are important because that's what makes it's just been what communicates best with the system. And specifically, I'm not sure what it is about the Komodos that makes it so great, but everyone is using them. You have these just huge corporations that are using these tiny little $5,000 cameras.
The part of the reason we've really enjoyed partnering with Red and learning more about their technologies, because it's really had a focus on specifically how to shoot content in front of LED walls effectively. Yeah. That's kind of where their specialty is. Sure. And they're just a really agile company that's really passionate about chasing after this specific thing. So we've just connected in that regard, and that's been really powerful.
Yeah. I would say another piece, just to kind of go back even further than Easter, I would say this journey started for us last Easter, trying to find effective ways to use the LED walls behind us, and we were running into things like pixelization, putting graphics or videos on the walls that were not suited for the size wall we were doing, or just stock CG footage that you would buy that just didn't look real, and that morphed into Christmas, where we created this mountainscape scene on the stage. We actually went out and filmed real footage, but then quickly realized even then you're still making it so big, you were still running into really weird just issues on the wall, to where we landed with the disguise server, which is we called it the key that unlocks everything for us, because it allowed us to take content in and be able to map it pixel for pixel, and be able to really do anything we want. We're even running our iMag walls through it. So with one keyframe, you can actually take a video and play it on every wall in the room, or you can be specific. You can do a lot of really, really cool mappings with just the timeline or a press of a button, which is different from what we were doing before, which was Resolume running through a computer, sending out a 4K on a 12G SDI line. And so it just it sets us up really well for the future, which was Easter was a short timeline. But I think the entire time we were really focused on where can we actually take this in the future. Yeah. And so I'm excited. We're already starting to see awesome things from it on the weekends. It's not Easter, so
absolutely. Yeah. I just want to acknowledge in that too. There's a lot of we've specifically chosen to we've brought in Red cameras and disguise server, and that's been really powerful for us. And I think that was a bit of a journey too, because I mean Tony can explain this, but there's a lot of companies that make different types of media serving platforms and different camera companies that do amazing work and create really also equally great products. And so, that was a journey.
This was the magic sauce combination of products, and all of these manufacturers took the time to individually care for us. Like when we reached out to Disguise, they set up meeting after meeting after meeting with us to make sure we understood how it worked. When we reached out to Red, Matthew Carmen came and like brought us those cameras and like let us get hands on and look at it on our walls and really demo everything well. And then when we got with Events United, they were like, "This is what you didn't think about. Here's what you should know, and here's how it really works." And we were like, "Oh, great, cool, awesome." And then they helped us just come up with a way to put it all together and make it work.
Yeah,
that was the magic.
They were like really the ones that let us know like this is a post-production tool. Like, yeah, you can.
They're like, you guys are using this the wrong way, guys.
Yeah, in particular because it's because there's a live audience, you know. So like if there's in post-production, well, there's no live audience unless it's a fake live audience, and so as your camera is moving, the world behind has to move for the information to match everything, right? Sure. But we have a flat plane where we live in for most churches, so that's really where the biggest challenge was, that they were like, well, let's try it.
Yeah. See, I was talking to you guys before, and I heard the biggest pain. You're like, rendering. It's always rendering. Like, talk me through a little bit about that workflow. What did that look like in terms of creatively? Okay, you have the gear, but what did that look like in terms of implementation, creatively designing what these elements that you wanted, and then actually making them look good in that environment?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that like knowing what gear you have gives you like very specific boundaries as to what you can do in your environment. And so in particular when you're doing the live ingest, so when you're trying to put everything live on the back wall, if depending on what kind of units you have, that's what affects it. And so it's like it's different than a picture, because every element in the shot needs to be rendered. It's constant information. There's light that's coming in. Basically, that's all it is. Unreal Engine is just a lighting thing. You put suns everywhere. You put shadows where you want them, and then you put a bunch of objects in the world. And so, but the primary problem with rendering stuff is that we were rendering stuff also to use as a playback tool, not just as a live ingest element. And so when you get artists in to work, you have to get them multiple machines, because those guys are just ready. They're quick. They want to keep grinding it out. Sure. But if you just have one giant rendering machine, it still takes so much time and so much like power to process everything. Like even one of our songs, if you look at it, like How Great Thou Art, that one render took like 2.5 hours, and it was a 6-minute video. And it was also like 300 gigabytes.
Is there a resolution? What resolution is it?
Yeah, that one was just perfect to our wall.
Yeah.
Perfect to your
wall.
wall.
That's like 8K or what? 4K, 8K?
No, that wall was like 4K by 2K.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. But on Christmas, it was a 6K wall. So that's where it would have been curious to see how Disguise actually works with the playback, because the playback was so good that everybody was like, we're mind blown with how good the playback is. Like, why is this so good? It's like, well, we have this beautiful media server that can play everything back.
Yeah, honestly, that's been a huge learning, is just like the step or the foray into media server territory is, I mean, it's a big jump. It's a big technology to undertake and to have knowledge around, and we're still learning a lot about it. We're trying to fill in the gaps and figure out how we can use it, because there's so many possibilities. But also just acknowledging, like with any video playback, like I hope I'm not alone in saying that video playback is complicated and it can be stressful. And if any of you guys are just challenged by that, then just know that we're in the same boat with you, and we've learned a lot through this process. The really cool thing to me, just thinking from the creative aspect, is that like when we were looking at similar for Christmas, we were basically just creating a mountain backdrop for Christmas. But the resolution you need to put that on a wall in a very large room is so intense that just playing that back through some standard software is going to be, with full resolution, and any kind of movement, even subtle things like a blade of grass that's just blowing like this.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And so that's been a huge learning for me, is like what it takes to undergo that. And so yeah, just going into media server territory is it's just a different category, and we're really fortunate to be able to kind of experience that now. I know a lot of other churches have done the same, but yeah, the same thing is true in point-to-point streaming or cloud-based streaming end. Like there's different kinds of technology for different applications, or different categories of that same type of technology for different applications. And so what's cool to me is learning about the scalability of things. Like there's ways that multi-site churches are able to stream content from campus to campus, in uncompressed formats at a certain cost. And then there's also solutions that, for a different cost point can provide also really reliable, robust connections to multi-site at a different price point. And so understanding the technology and what is going to be appropriate for the application is really important. And so I also just wanted to shout out, I'm like really into shout outs right now. So really want to shout out. What's cool is we're just able to learn so much. Like we've learned so much from Resi, and partnering with you guys, it's been hugely transformative as our church has grown from when I started 1 campus to 5 campuses and online. But also like for these Christmases and Easters, we have to rely on a lot of rental equipment because, as we know, production inventory is really expensive. And so we rely on our local production company, Brown Note Productions. They're amazing to work with. We also work heavily and closely with our partner Summit Integrated. A lot of churches have an integrator they work with, and that's been a huge key influential factor as well. We're able to just learn. We explained for Easter, we specifically learned so much from Events United because they have content creation experts and people who have gone through this exact process, and that was hugely valuable. So anyway, I just want to point that out because for different churches trying to find different solutions at different scales, price-wise and whatnot, that's been a big process for us. I'd say this is a jump in tier for us, and with that comes infrastructure, learning and workflow, creativity, cost. All those factors they play a big part.
That's good. That's a good segue kind of into the next part of our discussion, which I just want to talk a little bit about technology and production and its use within a church in general. Obviously, somebody who maybe is newer to using production within church or is at a smaller scale in terms of church is saying, whoa, XR, Unreal, what do all these things mean? What to you guys is the purpose of using technology within a church environment and within a church service environment?
I'll let you think about that, but I have one that I'm really pumped about. This has been my entire one of the biggest pushes that I have for using Red. So when this isn't a knock on volunteers either, but this is what happened. We got these Reds in, and you can work with the iPad interface to go up and down. It's really interesting and different. It's a little more challenging. And we had one of our volunteers who was a little bit older, and she was like, "What is going on? This is, I'm used to a certain thing." And one of our young guys, his name is Christian. Shout out to Christian. There we go. He's probably 17, 18 maybe. He walks in and goes, "Oh my gosh, this is so sick. These are iPad interfaces. This is Red stuff. That's so awesome." So it's like, that's one of the big reasons why I love this technology. And it's not even the technology. It's just getting like the next generation hyped up and excited to serve in production. And like, that's a part of it, Yeah.
You guys might have heard like the term like sports is religion or politics is religion. I've heard comments like that around just cultural comments. And the thing is, like, when considering the next generation, which is a really key part of the heartbeat of Flatirons Church, we're surrounded by all kinds of technology. It's everywhere, and it's completely integrated into our lifestyle. So to not use technology or to shy away from that would be a little bit anti what our identity is as a church at Flatirons. And so with that, we get to leverage technology And the people, really, to me, it's so much about the people that contribute and use the technology, because they get to come and realize that they're contributing to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. So we're able to do some amazing stuff because of, the sum is greater than its parts. And that points to Jesus, in that, like, two is greater than one, and the power of people in numbers. It's just, when it comes to even giving, for example, like when we give to an organization or raise money for a cause or something that's really special for us, like right now, that's been the next generation. Like, how do we support the next generation? It's like that the momentum of the number of people that we have gets us really excited. And similarly, the technology for us reflects that, where it's like, if we get to work with really professional technology, and we're going to utilize that to 100% of its capability. So, like, we're not going to, as stewards, we want to be able to point to something bigger than ourselves. And so whether it's Christmas or Easter, when we design a set, when we design a service, when we put stuff together, we're saying, hey, what is this pointing to that's something that's greater than this? And that was kind of part of what we got to do for Easter as well. We utilized cool technology, but it also pointed to something much greater. And for us, for Easter specifically, the win is seeing so many people be baptized and be able to take a public step of faith to say, hey, I acknowledge that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And that was really cool. That was a really cool thing.
How about in terms of kind of augmenting your worship experience and your teaching experience? I know that's one of the biggest things around XR, right? Is, hey, we're able to physically not just say, imagine this place, but actually transport people there, right? What would you guys say? Where is the room within production of enhance? I want to be careful of using that word carefully, but like enhancing a worship environment or making it accessible and clearly communicating a message, whether that's from a preacher or anything else that's happening in a service.
Yeah, I think we want to, at least, I guess, speaking to Easter, like, one of the things that, as a production team that we value, and just speaking on the technologies, we want to be able to take something that we use Jim, the pastor, as an example, something that God has spoken directly to his heart about. He wants to communicate this message out to our people. And we don't want to get in the way of that. We want to elevate it and enhance it and really suck people in so that they're met. And this was kind of the heartbeat of our service, is they're met with that moment where they're standing over the edge, which is if you watch the service, there's a particular video of a guy walking to the edge of a cliff and looking down. And so us using that technology to drive that point home. And that's, again, just to elevate that message so that it's really, really clear to that person that's watching it that, oh, I'm at this moment of time of crisis where I have to make a decision to take a step. I don't think we don't want the technology to get in the way of that, if that makes sense. We want to use the technology. And so that would just be my encouragement is looking at your technology, how can you use this technology to elevate?
Yeah, and a big part of that as well is how to make the best interesting video or whatever that you want to do and not be distracting. Because we had that as well. We made a sick video for a song, and we're like, ooh, that's very distracting.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. And so it's also about you have this sick technology, but you also have to take a step back and be okay, we're worshiping right now.
Yeah.
We can't play The Godfather Part 2 in the back wall.
Shout out to the Rio Grande Gorge.
That's true, yeah.
For being a beautiful piece of landscape on our great earth here in New Mexico. If you ever go to the Rio Grande Gorge.
So that's a great point. So as far as XR technology, the best way to use, XR technology, it's really just playback machines. But anyways, the best way to utilize them for churches where it's undistracting is to mix both elements of real stuff that's happening. And Events United was very clear, we should do 50-50. 50% should be real stuff that you go out to a location, a beautiful giant crack on earth, film some stuff there, and then bring it back, put it up there, and then also combine that with Unreal Engine concepts. You know.
Just want to point to so another piece of technology that we utilized that we didn't mention yet, but you saw it in the video clip earlier, was just we wanted to try. This was a seed planted from Christy. The use of blow-through LED wall, basically outdoor LED technology where there's a certain transparency factor and wind can blow through the wall, and it still has a certain pixel density, but you can also, when you put light on those LEDs or you light them up, you see the image, and when they're black, when they're dark, you actually see largely through them. And so given the time frame that we had, and even though our disguise server is capable of doing AR and XR type of tool set, we were using it less for that in this regard, but still trying to figure out how do we create some additional dimensionality on the stage, because otherwise we're dealing with these flat canvases like you described. And so we rented a blow-through wall that covered the span of the stage and could rise up and down on motors, which was really fun to try. That was another risk-taking example. And I'd say we learned a lot from that process. There were some really cool things that happened, and I would say it totally accomplished that goal of being able to like create depth in the space and show like live band members behind the wall and then have people out in front of it, or have an image on the wall and shine light through it. That was really great, and I think that was an effective use of that. However, we at the same time had learnings from the back side of that, going like, okay, well, it's not, no technology is perfect, and there's ways that we could do that differently. Hindsight's always 20/20. We always learn on the flip side, and so this Easter in particular was a good example of like that was a risk that we took in trying something with a LED wall like that, and it had wins, and I don't want to discount that. And it also created other challenges that we didn't expect, and we've learned from that as well. And we may try it again too.
That's awesome. One theme that I did just want to touch on quickly, because I think it's really important for any church, is volunteers.
Yeah.
You talked, Bryce, a little bit earlier about kind of the concept of empowerment. And I know, Brando, you had mentioned how, gosh, anybody coming in, seeing this cool technology is going to be pretty hyped up and excited to be able to work with something like this. But how do you take something like this and put it in a 14-year-old's hand and say, here, run with this? What does that culture look like for you guys? And even, I guess, on a bigger level too, what does empowering volunteers look like at Flatirons?
The 14-year-old can do it better than we can do it, so that's actually probably a great answer.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, they'll learn it quicker as well.
I would say like one of the things that we're trying to like really focus on is like, I think, setting a clear expectation on the front end and clear communication on the front end on the how, and really taking them with us on the journey. So like we don't want it to be when they walk in like, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Like we want them to come alongside us as we're doing it in the learning process, so that like as we get further down the road with it, there's a higher, a higher execution. And so we want to have crystal clear like communication and really, really clear expectation on this is what we're chasing after.
Yeah.
So that we're not left on the back end scrambling, trying to figure out how to do it. We want them to be able to take the technology from point A to point B on their own. And I think they did a really good job with that, because it was a lot of the volunteers we have, a lot of them have been here for a long time, and they walked into a completely different setup for Easter that they've been used to for 7, 8 years. And I feel like they did an outstanding job with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And like one of the things that we were able to do through this process, like we did a whole lot of research on the front end, and like we already know, like when you change something in a system, it throws everybody off because they're used to doing what they do on a Sunday. And so like through the research, we were able to be like, oh yeah, we know that they need to have this feature and this ability so that they could control the parameters that we need to adjust on the cameras and everything. And then we were also lucky enough that we had enough time to stagger the implementation of all the new products. So we were able to get the new house lights in to help like change the feel of the entire sanctuary a few weeks earlier, and then start playing with that and adding that into the service. And that was like awesome. And then we were able to put the red cameras in, and we didn't have all the rest of the parts to control them, so we had to run them on iPads for a little bit. And then we got the other parts, the remote controllers, the RCPs from Scarhoy. And then we were able to customize that panel so that they're able to control it in the way that they're used to also. So we did a ton of research to make sure it was as easy as possible for the volunteer as things came in. You know, supply chain issues and things, like we had some problems along the way, but we also have a process in place where we take videos and we're able to talk to the volunteers and they watch them so they kind of know what they're walking into ahead of time. So
Love it.
that's like our way.
Big deal for me is ownership, like volunteer ownership of their process. So what's exciting is like I try to put myself in the shoes of like volunteering, because serving is part of the character that we want to embody as part of the church. If I'm a contributing member of the church, like somebody who attends and somebody who gives to what we're doing, it's like I've essentially invested ownership in this process. Like literally, I own part of the technology solution. So I want to get my hands on it. So to me, there's a difference with a camera operator, for example, between like I'm going to come and I'm going to sit in my chair and I'm going to pan, tilt, zoom with direction. That's a concept, and that works for a lot of places. In our situation, we want our camera operators to be owners of their camera, owners of the process. They know that camera inside and out. They know how to take care of it, how to set it up on the weekend, how to accomplish things with it, how to interact with the rest of the team to make sure that the shot that they're getting is going to be most effective, because they're like a pro level operator, and they own that camera. They own that lens, like literally. Couldn't do it without their support in all those ways. So another that reminds me too, like I've spent a fair amount of time at a couple of universities just working with students, and I always throw out there to these students, it's like, hey, churches have a huge opportunity to the church provides a platform for people to really use some cool technology and be a part of it, where you can step right up to like using stuff in ways that you may not be able to in other environments. Using audio, for example, because my background in heart is in sound. It's like if you want to get on a console and you want to mix, come join the church.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've just been talking to Resi today, like starting next week, like half of their staff is our volunteer team, and they're going to be running stuff. Like, you know, Brando's been recruiting all morning, and
Everywhere I go, bro. I go to Starbucks, I'm recruiting.
yeah, don't you want to be a part of it? Like, yeah. So ownership in the process, not just, you know, we don't just have volunteer operators. We have professional volunteers.
Yeah.
We also make it sick to be a volunteer.
Sick.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Gotta
you're not
choose
gonna come in and be bored out of your mind. We're gonna feed you well. We're gonna feed like your stomach, but we're also gonna, you know, do a Devo time with you and feed a little bit of your soul, because you're working for the entire service. You can't focus as well as you normally do. So we try to take a piece of the service and try to feed that to them in between services as well.
And if you're watching right now and you're tuning in and you're thinking about joining our team and you're a professional graphics designer, I just want to invite you specifically to reach out, because we want to up our swag game on the production team. So please join starting this Sunday.
It's awesome. Very cool. Cool. Well, you guys, that will do it for the official segment. We've got our Q&A from people that are watching online. Still time to drop those in the chat if you want to. So if you're watching live, stay tuned just for the next couple of minutes, and we will go into Q&A in just a moment. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, check out that link in the description, and that will take you to the video with the extra Q&A. But you guys, it's been amazing. Thank you, Brando, Bryce, Morgan, and Tony. Really appreciate you guys spending the time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Well, that will do it for this month's Resi Equip. Make sure you check out that link in the description with lots more resources from today's event, including a Q&A from after the event. Thanks to Brando, Morgan, Tony, and Bryce for joining us. Thanks to you for watching, and we'll see you next time.